neutral corner. In the neutral corner.
2, 3, 4.
Hey guys, welcome to In the Neutral Corner with RJ Summerlin. For this episode, we're going to focus mainly on BKFC 41, main event Mike Perry versus Luke Rockhold. I watched a little bit of the UFC fights, but mainly watched the BKFC just because of my interest for the main event, co-main event, and featured fights. To get right into it, we'll start with Ben Rothwell and Josh Copeland. Excellent fight. I mean, especially for Josh Copeland to take it on 2 weeks' notice and to put on the performance that he did against Rothwell. That's really cool, and really, that guy lives a fighter's lifestyle. Anywhere, anytime. Push the pace, caught Ben with some big shots, but took some big shots himself. And those were some big dudes. Ben was 287, and then Josh was like 260 something, I think. So, pretty crazy. Big dudes hitting each other with no gloves. That's, that's rough. That is rough. The force and the mass behind those punches with no protection for their knuckles or your face. Jeez. It's ridiculous. Ben's eye was completely swollen shut by the end of the fight, but he got the victory, and his opponent, Josh Copeland's corner, threw in the towel in between rounds. And, he pretty much just gassed out. The first 2 rounds, he really gave it everything he had. And that Denver mile-high air, that thin atmosphere really got to some of these guys tonight. So that was last night. That was pretty crazy. Ben Rothwell, of course, called out Alan Belcher and hollering and making all these different claims and things like that. And honestly, he's a pretty tough test for Alan. It's a difficult obstacle to overcome. It's a difficult obstacle to overcome. He's taller, bigger, doesn't necessarily mean he hits harder, but, now Belcher's going to be faster, though. That's the thing. Ben is tough as hell. That's a really good and intriguing matchup. That'll be an exciting one in the near future. Eddie Alvarez versus Chad Mendez. What a great fight. What a war. Those guys really went at it. I thought Chad did really good. Of course, Eddie did well. They gave him the majority decision. A draw was, pretty close. They both knocked each other down. They both were throwing and missing. So that was an action-packed fight. It was pretty much everything we thought it was going to be. It's tough fighting with no gloves. It's tough being in a bare-knuckle fight. It's also tough watching it sometimes. Sometimes these dudes are hitting each other, and it's just like, God dang, man. Just the sound, and then the way the cuts look. Oh, man. Some of them guys get so cut up. Eyes swollen shut so quickly. That bone on bone is just different. And I feel like even guys that have fought at the highest level of MMA you have are still, apprehensive about being in a bare-knuckle fight, and they'll go in there and they could be the toughest guys like Eddie Alvarez, and they get hit a couple times and they're like, oof, screw this, right? Because, it's just different. And the damage is different. Everything is damage. It's like fighting with knives, even just it doesn't have to land super flush in order for it to be damage. You know what I mean? The damage done by the knuckles and Just the ridges on the corners of your face and the sides of your head and the top of your head. Oh, man, your teeth, your everything. We'll get to more about teeth here in a little bit. But that's rough, man. Just a jab. So, the old saying is that you can win a fight behind nothing but a good jab. Just jabbing someone to death, in a boxing match. And that's true. You can. However, in bare knuckle boxing, a jab can completely change the fight, and more than just being a good fast jab. You can catch someone at the right angle and just split them open, wide open, and the fight's done off a jab. A punch that is normally looked at as a setup throwaway punch type thing for most people. And that's just a difficult... God, it just makes it so difficult to fight. And that kind of segues into the main event. Just because you're a world champion in MMA, or like as we see world champions in boxing, doesn't mean that you can come over to BKFC and do as well as you think, because the punches are different. You can take a solid punch from a gloved fist, but, as we saw with Luke Rockhold, oh, man, and he was doing good. I expected him to get flatlined, so he did better than I thought that way, but he did quit. Now, I'm just calling it like I see it. He quit. He flat out quit. Said, I don't want to do this no more. Do I blame him? I can't say that I do, seeing that he's got cracked teeth and, fucked up his mouth. Like, God, that's rough. Tooth pain, mouth pain is some of the worst. Oh, that's awful. But, the first round, he was staying really long, sticking and moving. He popped Mike Perry with some good straight left hands down the pipe and wobbled him. He got wobbled himself too, but he wasn't as chinny as I thought he'd be. Mike, of course, was at a big reach disadvantage, so, he was kind of looping and hopping in and jumping and trying to get to Luke, but then I tell you what, he started to work that body too, man. And in that second round, the beginning of that second round, he was really just digging them knuckles into those body shots. And, man, that does not feel good. And it opens you up because, man, they hurt. So now you want to, block the body and try to keep him from attacking the body, and your head's wide open, and you just get your teeth smashed out your face. I mean, oof, that's rough, dude. That is so rough. Oh, I can't even. Oh, boy. Yeah, I don't blame him. For Mike Perry, what's next for him? Kind of hard to say. Truthfully, it should be Lorenzo Hunt. That would be the fight to make, but it looks like they train together, got some sort of quasi-friendship, so I don't know how that's going to go, but that's the fight to make. For sure. Especially because Hunt was put down in his last fight, and then, immediately put the other guy down. So he can be put down, but boy, can he put you to sleep. So that would be a very intriguing matchup. Chad Mendez decided to retire. Said pretty much win or lose, he was going to retire. He's tired of the fight camps, tired of being in training camps, and he wants to focus on his family still and do those things. And made a couple of big checks and cashed out. And honestly, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. We fight because we love it, but at the end of the day, we got to make a living and we got to get paid just like everybody else. And as I've said in the defense of Roy Jones Jr. before, you don't go to work and put, papers in a copier out of the goodness of your heart or out of the passion for copying paper. You do it because that's your freaking job and that's what the fuck you're supposed to do, right? And or because that's what you know to do. You may not want to be that, but damn it, are you the best paper copier ever? So these people that fight when they're old and fight for money, so what? If people are willing to watch these people fight, then do it. And if these guys are willing to fight, no one's forcing a gun to anyone's head and making them sign these fights. These are grown men saying, yeah, I'm going to take it. I'm going to do it. So let them do it. And if Chad Mendez doesn't want to fight anymore because he cashed 2 big checks, so be it. He's earned that. Eddie Alvarez says he's going to keep fighting. So that'd be cool. What did they fight at 65? So I don't really know. That'd be some interesting matchups, I'm sure. I don't know who the champ is at 65 at BKFC. I don't follow it as closely. And, Luke Rockhold said, even with his shattered teeth and his busted up mouth, he's still wanting to fight. Just maybe with gloves next time. So I think he's had his bare knuckle fill. Can't say I blame him, man. It's a lot of damage. It's a lot of risk you take. Broken orbitals, shattered bones, shattered hands. I mean, just the list goes on. And that's everybody talks about it's the most exciting sport or whatever. It's like definitely the roughest sport for sure. Fighting someone bare knuckle. Speaking of bare knuckle, we have the bare knuckle fights coming up. Game bred fighting next Friday, Cinco de Mayo, for Jorge Masvidal. Dylan Kleckler fighting Big Roy Nelson. And that's an interesting matchup. To dive more into that, Dylan is a big, strong dude. Huge guy. And there's a good possibility that Roy might get popped by Dylan and want to take him down. And Roy being a black belt, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be able to take it down Dylan. Dylan's a big, strong dude, man. With that being said, though, Roy's got some of that sneaky overhand right KO power. So Dylan's got to be really careful. He's got to make sure to be loose. He's got to make sure not to be stationary. Keep his jab pumping. He can win the fight on the jab. Like I said, bare knuckle. If I were him, I wouldn't even throw any kicks. I would just box this dude's head off. Roy Nelson's not going to be throwing no high kicks at you. He's not going to be throwing no body kicks at you. He might throw a couple of leg kicks, but he hasn't fought in 3 years. You know what I mean? It's time for Dylan to go out there and show everybody, like, hey, this is who I am. And beat Roy Nelson, who's not that far off in age from Dylan, so it's not feeding Roy Nelson to a young lion coming up. Dylan getting the fight he deserves and getting what he rightfully deserves in an opportunity like this. Some awesome undercard fights. A lot of them. You need to check them out. They're going to be really good, exciting fights. Marcus Perez is fighting another guy from the PFL. That's going to be a good fight. That guy's, Marcus Perez is exciting, wild striker, and he's going to bring the pain. And that's going to be a very interesting fight to watch, because when I watched him up there in Milwaukee, he was a crazy dude. So that'll be really cool. There's plenty of other fights. I wish I was able to get on that one, but it didn't materialize, and it is what it is. It's not in the cards. There will be others. There will be other fights for me to take, but, honestly, I'm going to cut it short today. I'm tired. I've had a tough weekend, and, but I did really want to put this out for you guys. Didn't pay attention to a whole lot of the UFC fights, so don't really have much to say on them. I don't even know who won the main event. I'm so behind. But thank you guys. I'm looking to try to get another interview in this week, so I'll let you know and keep you posted. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget, like, follow, subscribe in the Neutral Corner, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Apple, Spotify. Thank you guys so much for listening. So you've been in the Neutral Corner with RJ Summerlin. Godspeed.